Hi, Mike Pelonzi, back with another episode of Safe and Sound. This is part 3 of a 3-part series I've been doing about making your home safer, building a safe room. And I'm really excited today, like I was the other day with Mike Bean Construction. Just to recap what we talked about on part 1, keeping the bad guy from coming in our homes. Using solid exterior doors, proper locks. We talked about ballistic windows and even ballistic coating that can go on the windows, which is much cheaper. Some window tint, breaker bars for the lower windows in your home. And then yesterday's show, part 2, I actually got into the whole how are we going to build it, what are we going to do in our home. Which led me to today's show, how do we know when we have to get to our safe room? What to stock in our safe room, what brings us there? Well, what brings us to our safe room is the alert system, or what some people call an alarm system. But, I'm 61, back in my day, alarm system were clunky, they had big boxes. We had these metal sensors in the windows, and they would only go off if someone lifted up the window, so they could just break the window, leave the sill down, and walk in. Always when we talk about what work we're going to do, what do we talk about and everything, we talk about people who have a good reputation, who have been around for a while, and who you actually trust to come in your own home. When it comes to alarms, no one better than Wayne Alarm System. They're located in Lynn. That's a great story. The owner, Ralph Sevenor, started this actually when he was 12 years old. His house got broken into, and he felt what how violated that could be and the stress, and he actually built an alarm system for his own house. And some of his friends and family said, hey, can you build one for me? He was 12, he made a few more, and next thing you know, here we are many years later, Wayne Alarm was born. So today I've asked a couple of representatives from Wayne Alarm to come, 2 guys I know well, John Margulis and Paul Veruto from Wayne Alarm. Thank you very much for coming, appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So I know Wayne Alarm's been around for a long time. I want to talk about some of the newer things that are out there, because when I talk about alarm systems, I'm sure people just think about a big horn going off and lights going off, but what's changed in the alarm industry? 2025, the alarm systems of today, what makes them different from like when I was young? Literally we had those metal things in the windowsills. So tell me what's changed.
So quite a few changes in alarm systems, especially over the last 10 years. Alarm systems now aren't just security-centric, they're life safety-centric. So, aside from the security protection, we're talking about monitored carbon monoxide protection. We're talking obviously about fire, smoke protection. And on top of that, it's really about lifestyle protection. So, your alarm system now should have a positive impact on your quality of life. So, with the tie-in of video, which is probably the biggest advancement over the last 10 years, is tying video into security, especially residential security. Not only giving you the ability to monitor your house while you're not home, but to give you that another layer of security when you tie video to the alarm systems that you're used to, that you remember. But and then artificial intelligence and how that ties into the video systems, and being able to tell the difference between a person and a car, a truck, an animal. So these are analytics that are built into modern day video systems.
And a lot of people, we all live in a world where dog lovers, cat lovers. Now I assume AI knows the difference, so we can put our alarms on, go out for the day. Pets can roam through the home easily without setting the alarm off. Couldn't back in my day. And I'll never forget, I had a German Shepherd when I was a kid, and we had a motion sensor that was supposed to detect the difference. Police were always at my house with the dog. It got to the point where we couldn't even put the alarm on.
Yeah.
But I assume those days are over.
Yes, motion detection now, there's a pet immunity. It does have pet immunity. There are limitations to it. You couldn't have a household full of pets, but it's certainly, pet immune motions do exist now. They'll handle animals up to 90 pounds, without a problem.
And that's a big dog.
That's a very big dog, or a small person.
Or a small person, yes.
Yeah.
And speaking of small people, how easy is it for kids to use the alarm systems now? We'll talk about cameras and families having access to their loved ones.
Yeah, it's a great topic. I think the integration with looking at layered security in any given residence that is protecting their home, you want to be engaged, you want to be able to adapt to some of those things, and they have a system called Total Connect that'll let you arm, disarm, get alerts from any given system that may have an issue or a trouble if there's been a breach. And even looking at, as Paul said, the layered security, being able to identify things before it even gets to the house. And then once it does happen, how are you notified? How are you notified in what's going on inside your home? Yeah.
And because we're talking about safe rooms and the integration of safe rooms, one thing I brought up the other day was the mistake people make is they get this big bulky camera that will shine down the hallway, but will not show them the doorknob to the entrance of whatever safe room we create. So how easy is that? I mean, we don't need the big bulky cameras anymore.
No.
We can have a camera right on top that would show, 360 down the hallway.
And even working with some of that technology where you can actually petition a certain area that's separate of the alarm system in and of itself, where if you have your system unarmed, that area is always secured. If it was breached, if somebody went in there, you're going to know about it. So that's kind of a really good, piece of technology that allows you to secure another area within its own entity.
So they can watch it without setting the alarm off.
Absolutely.
Or
Yep.
say they want the alarm to go off.
Yep. You could set it
Panic
both ways.
buttons.
Yep.
Let's talk about panic buttons, because I'm all about panic buttons in the safe room, amongst other things, with secondary communication, which I go through a second phone in that room, because your alarm system goes off, okay? The homeowners are not engaging the threat. The homeowners know at that time, the family goes in the safe room that we created, he gets in the safe room, we can install not only a monitor for the camera, but a direct line to the police station, or does it go to the call center? People ask me, does it go directly to the police station?
So your options are limitless today.
Okay.
So, you asked about children making it easy to use alarms. So security systems are very much app driven. So, and we all know that kids are experts with apps. If it's an app, a kid can use it. So everything's app driven. So not only the functionality of the alarm system, arming, disarming, or seeing where the intrusion's happening real time, but also you can feed your cameras into the app. So within the app, you have full control of the system, full diagnostics, a notification of where and what is happening, and you can import video into the app, or you could have it on an iPad, or you could have it on a monitor in your safe room. So the options are limitless. And as far as a response, you can have a traditional response where the alarm company gets a signal. You mentioned phone lines. Now we're predominantly cellular, which is much more reliable, believe it or not, than traditional POTS phone lines. So everything's cellular, backed up by internet typically, but you have dual communication paths, so you know that signal's going to get through. We can communicate something as simple as an alarm activation, or we can even, if you wanted to really get involved in live video monitoring, we could actually monitor the video cameras live and respond to those with two-way voice if necessary. So yeah, you can get as elaborate as you'd like.
In that response, you've seen the person in the house. That comes from your call center, correct?
Yeah, if you're doing live video monitoring, when a camera's triggered, so let's say you have a piece of property and you say, I want to know if there's going to be a human on there after 10 p.m. Not supposed to be anybody in the lot. So that camera's triggered by the analytics that I mentioned. It can tell that that's a person and not a deer or a dog. That then is going to send a signal to the central station, which will then bring up that video in real time. You could actually have a two-way voice module, so a central station operator could talk down and say, listen, you're on private property. We've already dispatched the police. They're on their way. So, and you could potentially stop that, anything from happening before they get into the home. But the same thing with interior cameras. You can get as elaborate with the monitoring as you want.
And when we talk about central station, and I know when people say central station, everyone thinks about overseas. And that's why I love working with Wayne Alarm, because they are inland. Their central station is inland. Do you guys still give tours?
Absolutely.
So highly recommend you take a tour. If you get Wayne Alarm, go see that operation. It's like NASA, and they're launching a space shuttle. It's unbelievable. And the thing is, it's all in Lynn, Massachusetts, local. You're talking to local people with local police department, and which increase the response time dramatically. Not to get too political, but there's no language barrier when you're dealing with Wayne Alarm, which is nice. People will understand what's going on. we all know in a stressful situation, the victims tend to mumble, yell, scream. It's inaudible. So it's nice to know that it's coming locally, the help is coming locally through your local police department to whatever services you set up.
Most importantly for us, maintaining our central station, while it's less money to outsource that service to, like you said, to a national or an international central station that monitors thousands of different companies' alarms. But having that local presence and also having that within the Wayne Alarm umbrella, we have the ability to really control the product. So making sure that the support and the service, and like you said, whenever you're talking to a customer on the phone to a client and they've had an alarm activation, they're nervous, they're unsettled, they're aggravated. So being able to train these operators to deal with those circumstances and has been key to us. And again, it's worth the investment to us to keep that central station here local. And like you said, if there's a nor'easter happening right now, we're in the middle of it with you. So we understand why we're getting, AC power fails and, from numerous accounts, things to that extent. So yeah, it's an investment we've always felt is worthwhile.
And it shows that by the tower that was built right on that location, which is, I don't know how many hundreds of feet.
385-foot tower in the middle of downtown Lynn. So that enables us to get radio signals from alarms, but we also, the DEA is on that tower. All the cell sites, the major carriers are on that tower. The light on top of it is a beacon for the FAA. They use that. We have to notify them when the light's out. So they use that as an approach to Logan.
So all aspects in emergency, and I talked about this the other day, when we talk about safe rooms, there are really three types. First type, which we're talking about, keeping someone out of our home. And second is in case of a natural disaster or inclement weather. And the third one, which we don't really worry around here, hopefully chemical releases, like out west where they have chemical plants that may go up. So regardless, you actually could cover all three of those if we needed to.
Everything.
Let's hope we don't need any of that.
Yeah.
But really, the burglary and break-ins, like I said the other day, the FBI, 1.1 million burglaries happen in America every year. 34% happen through the front door, which is pretty brazen. That, you figure the front door, it's facing the street. People would kind of want to duck around back, but criminals, they see a target and they just want to go for it. And we just have to stop them.
Well, yeah, the thought process is, people that might see somebody at your front door, it may not trigger them to think something's wrong because it looks natural. Someone's at the front door. And if, so they feel that it's easier to get away with it if they're doing it in the front door, because it's less obvious. But they want to get in as quickly and as easily as possible. So
AI, artificial intelligence. We love it, we hate it. I get it. We all see the robots on TV going, oh, this could be so bad. But technologically, artificial intelligence could speed things up and actually help the call center, correct?
Yeah, I mean,
the system.
Yeah, specifically, like I mentioned with cameras, false triggers early on with cameras were very common. The leaves blowing could trigger your cameras to think there was a motion activity. But now, with analytics and AI, training and furthering those analytics ability, like I said, they can pick up. They know when the schedule is, when they should be watching these cameras. They know that, like I said, the difference between an animal. We have clients that set their phones up to trigger them when it does see it. If they want to catch that video of a deer walking through their lot. But you can do that. You can. There's even analytics now that can identify an Amazon truck versus a UPS truck. So it's really gotten insane how clever this the technology is.
Up to and including firearms, Paul, right?
Yeah, and on a more broader scale, commercial scale, or even especially with workforce safety, educational safety, there's now analytics built into cameras that can pick up a gun, not just a long gun, but a pistol from 100 yards. And the intent obviously is to pick that up, to understand that you have a threat as far away from the actual building, as far away from who you're protecting as possible. So that's come a long way in the last 2 years. Gun detection, not just gunshot detection, but gun detection. Actually seeing the firearm and recognizing it as a firearm before it even goes.
So the camera would see a gun.
Yep.
Recognize it, alert you that it saw a gun in a hallway or room, which obviously shouldn't be through the house. Yeah. So if someone was actually in the house with a gun, it would alert you that
Yeah.
the police said there's a gun in there.
Yeah, so gun detection is always tied to live video monitoring. So we always want a live central station agent to pick up that video first, verify what they're seeing, and then relate it to the authorities, relate it to the people in the property, whether it's a school or a business. But you want that human intervention, that confirmation, so that when we notify law enforcement, we've verified already that there's an issue. So obviously the response to that is going to be as quick as possible.
And I think that's the great thing too, Mike, as you expand, where, your normal structure was protecting what's inside the building, protecting the building, the occupants. You're seeing that expand and expound outward, both informationally and identifiers, to identify some of these things before things happen.
And we're going to get to identifiers in a minute because you and I talked about that earlier.
Absolutely.
I want to bring up one thing because people always say, I'm just going to put an alarm sign on my door or on my property. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, and I've been told from people in your industry, you put your signs or stickers on doors in a very specific location, which we're not going to divulge now. But criminals know those locations, and they know if a homeowner just slaps it on their door that Wayne Alarm did not put that up there, even if they got a hold of one of your stickers.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct.
So that is not, thinking that you're just going to outsmart the criminals by putting some signs up. I mean, even if it's a real sign, it may not deter them. Someone who's determined, we have to stop them and catch them before they get in. But, the whole do-it-yourself, I'm gonna fake them out with a sign or a sticker on my door. And why would you risk your family's safety with that?
Yeah, the peace of mind that you get a monitored security system will probably cost you less a month than what we pay for coffee on average, a coffee a day. And the peace of mind that it can provide you, that a team is watching your property, is watching your home for you, and they're going to make the calls necessary if there's an emergency. And like I said, it's not just about even security, it's about life safety. Carbon monoxide is huge, and we've been very fortunate over the last couple of years to have actual saves, what we call actual saves with carbon monoxide detection, actually, protecting families and saving lives. So it's been a really cool feeling to know.
Which is odorless, correct?
Carbon monoxide
Yeah.
is odorless, and lethal. So natural gas is not as poisonous to humans, but you can smell it. It's obviously a danger for the combustion aspect of it. It can explode. But carbon monoxide you can't smell it, you don't know it, and typically when you're suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning, you don't understand that you're going to be irritable. And these are things that our operators are trained to pick up on. We get a carbon monoxide signal from a home, we call the home, and maybe the homeowner is like, frustrated that the thing went off, frustrated that we're calling him in the middle of the night. But irritability is a symptom of carbon monoxide poisoning. So they're trained to pick that up. And we've had a situation like that where the resident was insisting that we not call the fire department, but we did anyway. And it turned out they had a lethal amount of carbon monoxide in the house.
Yep.
So
A good save.
that's a great save. Yeah, that's why we're in this industry.
It's funny you mentioned coffee. I bring this up all the time. And some places charge $3 a cup of coffee. Some places charge more, $5. And you go, if you're one of those people, and say $3 plus the tip, you take the change back. So let's just do easy math. 4 times 30. It's $120 a month just in a cup of coffee. I'm guessing for $120 a month, we can get monitoring from you guys.
Yes.
Probably
Yes,
less.
Absolutely less.
Yes,
Yes.
less. So we have a team keeping our family safe, less money than we're spending a cup of coffee to get frustrated driving through wherever we're going on starting our day off.
Yeah.
And I tell people, listen, let's put in perspective. How much money are you spending per month on that cup of coffee? Or how many people are buying the Rockstar and the power drinks and all that? And, those are $3, $4 a piece. And, I always say, simple math, multiply everything by 30, right? That's what we're doing a month.
Yeah.
Where should that money go? Better ways for us.
Yeah, and the reality is also when you have a monitored security system, especially one that's complete with carbon monoxide and fire protection, the discount you're going to get from your homeowner's insurance sometimes pays for up to 80% of that monitoring for you with the
Great
money
point.
that you're saving on your home insurance. So
That is a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But that's why I asked you guys to be here. Because we use professionals who know what they're doing and have a good reputation. All right, look at that. Time's flying by. So let's do the 4 identifiers for protecting a home, and then let's touch on some mistakes people make, and that will bring us almost the end where I'll do the tip of the day. But John, you are an expert on those 4 things, so why don't you take it?
Well, Mike, I think it's funny because we worked together in another world at one point that really kind of prepared us for some of the things that we both ran into and the things that we're looking at today. And I think environment is an extremely important one. Knowing your environment, knowing your surroundings, be aware of where you're at. If it's your home, you should have a contingency plan in case something does go wrong, whether it was a fire or other. I think that's important. So, making sure that you have a well-lit property. Motion lights, obviously, today can really play a key factor into having something go on. If it's picked up and they're walking around somewhere they shouldn't be, you have a category of different types of threats that you may run into. Low light or no light, easy accessibility. They can get in easily without having to really work at it or be seen by other people in the community or neighbors. Sometimes you have more sophisticated type where they can say, well, that guy's not here 4 days a week. Well, how do they know that? They're watching. So really engaging in both understanding what type of system you have or that you want to put in, identifying layered security, trying to cover areas before they even get to the property. As Paul said, there's a lot of important factors there. I think that's some of the most important ones.
Layered security.
Yep.
We start outside, we start inside. Do you guys work outside in or inside out?
It really comes down to a couple different things. One is finding out what the customer wants, which is the most important, and then helping guide them to make sure that they have the adequate protection with anything that they're putting in or having a professional put in. So cameras will obviously get somebody before they even get to the property or the perimeter. That's certainly a first step in identifying those things.
Another thing people ask is it better to hide a camera so people can't see it, or is it better to have a camera out in the open where people can see it? Seems to be 2 schools of thought, and they're like, what's the best tool to use?
Yeah, so you can find people in the industry that will have different opinions. I've been in the industry 35 years, my entire adult life, and I've always felt that while you don't want cameras to be ugly or obtrusive, but you shouldn't. I would want people to understand there's cameras there. People act differently when they know there's cameras there. And, at the end of the day, we'd prefer to just prevent anything from happening rather than have something happen and even catch that person. A lot of times when people will recognize, if a possible intruder will recognize that there's cameras, they're just going to go to a different house. So that's what we want. We want to deter things from happening now. That's the beauty of the technology today. Everything in the past was very reactive. Even if you had cameras, there'd be a break-in, you'd have video evidence, and then we'd go from there. But now with the stuff we've talked about, monitored video, we can actually be proactive. We can actually stop something from happening. I can't tell you how many saves that we see with video for commercial applications, even things thinking out of the box. A pool at an apartment building that's closed at a certain time, kids sneak in, and this live video picks that up, and if they're drinking, it can potentially save something terrible from happening.
Would you call that a drone detection, Paul, or would you consider that more
that's just straight up live video monitoring?
Okay.
So there actually is technology drowning detection, but we could get into that another time.
Let's hope we don't need that.
Yeah, no.
Especially now it's summertime. All right, so we have talked a lot about a lot of different products out there, a lot of advances, which are really nice. Completing the safe room. Their system is going to alert us time to get our family safe. I already talked about why we want to run and hide as opposed to engage. And I want to get the tip of the day. And actually, you came up with the tip of the day. So, Paul, you want to tell everyone, we always end the tip of the day. You want to just tell them the tip of the day that we talked about?
Absolutely. So John touched on it, but it starts with perimeter protection. That's where your first layer of security is, and motion detection lighting is key. If you have floodlights on the house and they're not motion triggered, you should look at getting motion triggered lighting. Today's technology even allows us to do floodlighting ourselves with low voltage technology with built-in cameras. So you not only have the floodlight, but you have a camera within that same floodlight. And again, we can pick up something from even before somebody gets in the house. So, but key is keeping the perimeter of your property as safe as possible, and that, and key is lighting. So, that, and again, people that are looking to do harm are always looking for a dark, hidden part of your house that they won't be picked up. So, motion detection lighting can save lives.
Awesome.
Proper response, making sure you have the right people responding to the right incident, and information. Yeah, it's important.
All right. Okay. Great tip of the day. Love that. Light. Start right there. And we can work our way from the light to where else we need to do. All right. So, guys, thank you so much for coming. It's been a great 3-part series about creating the safe room. Again, Mike being on the other day, the contractor doing construction. I talked to you yesterday about actually building inside, and we need you to tell us to get there and to send the cavalry. And we put that all together, and we have an awesome plan. So thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So thanks, Wayne and Lon, for allowing John Margulis and Paul Veruto to come. Appreciate that. And also, I got to give a shout out to Ralph Sevenor, who is the owner, but also a really good guy, very active in the community, and really gives back. And that's one of the reasons I like working with you guys, because good people doing good things and keeping everyone safe. I also want to thank Chris Harvey for helping me put this together for the last few days. Thank you very much. And of course, my beautiful wife, Lisa, who's always behind the scenes, and I keep teasing I'm going to get her out here, and see she's shaking her head. No, you're not coming out? Okay. But that's it. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you guys next time. See you soon.